All right. So what we are going to learn SQL that's very standard, as I said, that can be used pretty much against any database. And not only database, uh, SQL is so popular for data query. Even the big data platform also provide SQL concept, right? For example, if you want to see some data from any table, or any file of the big data, the Google BigQuery use the SQL language, right? A structured query language is a full form of the SQL, and is known as the fourth generation of the language. And if you go on the generation, the very first start with the assembly language. That's more about the coding. The more you go on the right hand side, like the second generation, third generation, and fourth generation, the more easy to write and code that. So SQL is considered as the fourth generation of the language, and it's more like a English type language, right? Why we call the English type language? Suppose there is a student table and you want to see the data from a student table, right? Then you can simply write uh, here is your student, right? And if you want to see all the whatever the values is there in that table, uh, every SQL start with the select, means you want to show the data, right? And you don't know the name of the column, then you can put the star. A star represents every single column of that table, right? And then you need to mention from, like from where you want to see the data. So I want to see the data from a student table, right? So this will be your programming language. Now you see how easy is that. Select a star from a student. Select means what column you want to display. A star means all columns of the table. Which table you want to use? A student table. And once you run it, you'll see all the data is available here, right? So that's why it's called the fourth generation language. That's like a English type, right? And again, if you want to extend, okay, I want to say like show me all the student, but only whose are female, right? So how do you do the filter, right? So the filtration is just start with the where condition. You'll put the where, and then you want to know the female, only the female. So you know that the female is the gender column, right? You need to know like the which column has that value. And usually what I do, like once I see the data there, I can right click and copy with header. When you do the copy with header, it will copy the name of the column and the value also. So what you can do now, you can just put the gender and then put the equal to sign. And then because anything that is date and character will go into single quote. That's the rule, right? That's called the programming syntax, right? So now you run it, it will filter the data of all the students who are female, right? So that's the way this entire SQL starts. Some basic things you need to remember, right? Like order of the keyword. And when we see the keyword means these words are reserved for the programming, right? So whenever you write the from, you cannot create a table called the from. You can create it, but you need to put it in a big bracket, right? So these are the some programming syntax things. Like the same thing goes for the syntax is like the syntax rule of SQL is that any character and date should be in a single quote. If I'll remove the single quote or I forget to put the single quote, then what it will be happen? It will throw you in a syntax error, right? So you cannot do anything wrong. You won't get the expected result. So that's the other advantage of the this SQL language, right? And it will give you some more hints on that. Once you practice more, then by reading this comment, you will able to see like what you are doing wrong, right? So it's like a close quoted mark after the character string is. So you know that the thumbs rule is that any character or any date need to be in a single quote. So it's like, and here you see like your editor also give you like the something is wrong here, right? You see that red line, right? So that's pointing something is wrong. You can put the single quote and you can run it, then it's running fine, right? So this is one example of SQL. You know this, you know SQL. That's all, right? So as easy as, right, as you see like. Now, few structure and syntax is that, as you see, like you can see, like, okay, the common mistake newcomers does that, like, okay, what need to be go where, right? Can I write this like the from and select, right? So the order of keyword is very important, right? Again, you see, like this is throwing error. So all the composition of that SQL query and their order is predefined. In between, you can change the values, right? But the order is defined. So the very first order is start with the select. This is the first. The very first SQL query start with select. Then whatever the column name you want to put, you can put the column name, right? So I'll put that the column name in between, you can put it. If there is a more than one column name, that will go as a comma. Okay. So you need to put the column name, right? The actual name of the column that is in your table, right? And if you have a column name 1 and column name 2, in this example, our column name is a student ID, first name, middle name, last name. So if you are giving that name, you need to separate by comma, right? Otherwise, you will not understand like the which you are calling, right? So each column name need to be separated. And at the end of that, because this is your last column, you do not need to put comma. Okay, so this is pretty standard syntax. That's what we call the syntax. If you do it wrong, then it will throw an error, right? Right after select that comes is the from. Okay, so once your select is completed, like you're adding one column, two column, or 100 column, doesn't matter. Once your all columns has been added, then the right after the select start with the from. And right after the from start with the table name, right? It's fixed, right? So that's not going to change. So you need to remember that. Select column name from table name, right? And after table name, if there are more than one table, then your join start, right? And after the join, your where start. After the where, your group by start. After the group by, your order by start, right? So this is pretty a standard sequence of SQL command, right? I'll call it command instead of the keyword and syntax. So this is a very standard. If all these elements would be in your SQL, this would be your order. And you can start with the very first thing and you can ignore this. But if you're using this and this, then table need to come. If you're using this and this and multiple table, then join need to come. So if you are adding where, then some value need to come. So that's where it goes all the way, right? What it means, like you can like the select 1 plus 1. Is it going to throw an error or it will be pass? What's your guess? Anybody?
Error.
All right, no error, right? It will give you 2, right? So why is 2? Because see, it's not necessary. As I see, like the only select you can write. You do not need to use the from, right? But once you're using the from, you need to give the table name, right? So suppose that now I wrote that, and now I'm using from a student. It will throw error. Yeah. Okay, let's try it. No, right? It's giving you 4 times, right? Because there's number of 4 recorded in your table, right? Right. So as you see, like now you got the select and from, right? I mean, I don't want to trick you, right? Just what I'm the purpose of this is like the only select can be used, right? And once you're using select and from, then after the from table name will come, right? Any table, like you want to use city table, country table, course table. Suppose I'm using city table instead of the student, right? So city table. And one more thing you notice that I'm not using the schema name, right? I'm just using city, right? So if you run that, oh, there is nothing in the city table. First, let me use the state table. So see, state is a keyword also, and state is a table also. That's why it's in a blue color, right? So all this should not be giving you warning, but it will run. But usually, if any, like as I said, from is a keyword and that you want to keep it as a table, it's better to put it in a big bracket, right? So you understand like, okay, this is not that. So now you see like this is coming, right? And let me run again the very first query. And in editor, right, you can write each segment and you can select and run, right? So there is a two-way to run that. Select a star from a student, right? That's the table name. And you will notice like I'm not using the dbo schema, right? As I said that we yesterday saw that the server, database, schema, dbo, and then table name. So every object in SQL Server is four label, right? Is identified the absolute path of that object is fourth label, right? So dbo is schema, but without writing dbo also my query is working because by default SQL Server understand if there is no schema attached with my table, it means it is going to be dbo schema, right? But I would recommend like you always use the schema when you are writing your table. So it's a good practice. Don't write the table name only, right? And that's why you see in a DB to also use the preview or table name, right? Because preview is the schema. So here DB is schema. So as a good practice, always use the schema name, right? Although without DBO you can work, but use the schema name always. So it will be in practice, right? So that's what I'm running here now, right? So now you see that let's extend this table query, right? So let's continue with the state table. And as you see, like what I was doing, if I run this entire things, I'm not selecting any line and I'm running this, it will throw error, right? Because it's not able to translate or process this line. But when I'm selecting this line, what I'm saying to editor, only run the line that has been selected. And this line need to be complete. If this SQL will not be complete, it will throw error. Like suppose that I'm running select a star, it will throw error because you don't understand what a star means, right? If I'm selecting and running this, again, it will throw error, right? So whenever you are selecting on editor and running the query, that query need to be complete. So now this is complete query, so there is no error, okay? So that is something around the editor, and pretty much every editor works in same way. Either you can run entire query, like if I'll cut it here and I go with the new query. And one more thing you can notice, like when I click the new query, here is the list of the database. In one server, there could be many databases, right? So you need to specify which database you want to run. So as here it is there available, and now you can run it, right? So it's very important, like if this database will be switched, and now you try to run, oh, Resident table is everywhere. Okay, let's go on the MSDB. Right now you try to run, then it will throw an error, invalid object name, right? Why is invalid object name? Because your database is selected as MSDB, and but dbo.Student table is into your student DB database, right? So that's also you can see. And some of the query you can see, like as I said, that the third number you can use it. So what you can do is like in the same query, if you want to like, I don't care about which has been selected, then you need to mention the database name, schema name, and table name. And once you run it, then no matter what has been selected over here is fine because your SQL Server can identify first is the database, second is the schema, and third is the table name. So this is absolute paths, right? And you are on the same server. If you are changing the server, then you can put the server name also. That's why it's the four number notation comes on that, right? So
Uh,
this is
Madhukar,
something good to know.
Madhukar, I
Yeah,
have
Dimit.
a question.
Mhm.
Sorry. What is schema? Can you explain?
Yeah, so schema, the schema is the storage defined to organize your content, like your objects, right? So it's nothing, just it's a name, right? So as you see over here, importers and into table, you see like there are so many tables, right? But you see like the first is the application, that's a schema, right? Sales, that's a schema, right? Warehouse, that's a schema, right? So what's the advantage of that? You can group your tables into that, right? So think in this way, if it will be not grouped
Got
by
it.
schema, then everything, it will be very hard to know what is for what, right? So that's why we create this schema. For example, I'm working for the insurance. Suppose that this is my instance database, right? And again, if you want to use the select from here, you just need to use and name of the database. And if you run this command, your database is selected as a student DB, right? And if you go on that, you can see like the how many schema is already present, right? So that you can see from storage or security roles and schema. So see, some of these are the default schema and some of these are custom schema that we can create. So long and short, we use the schema to organize table, right? So if I am going here, let me go again on the my student database, and within the security, you see the schema. So you see right now, these are the schema. Now somebody tell me, like, can you create 5 or 10 tables for the claim system, right? So that will be in a DBO. So first what I'll do, create schema claim, right? So once you run the create schema claim, you'll see here the claim is created, right? And now I create a table claim.claimant, claim dot something. So all the tables will be under claim schema. Got it? This
Yes,
is
thank you.
used to organize. So you can create a claim, you can create the schema underwriter. So this is called the underwriting schema. Similarly, you can create the schema finance and all the tables. Now the tables that belongs to finance, you will create under the finance schema. So whenever somebody will come, even your database have the 100 tables, you can see the logical group, right? Not a logical, it's a physical group because physically you're creating this schema, right? So see like the 10 of table are in a finance schema, 20 of table are in a claim schema. So that make anybody easy, like, okay, if I are working on the claim, means like these 20 tables belongs to claim department. Okay, it's a very good point. And see, again, all these things, you can see the variety of things when you start working. If the data modeler or DBA is expert enough, they will organize in this way. But I have seen like the thousands of table without any schema also. That's a bad database design, right? That makes very difficult life for everybody to organize thousands of or hundreds of table without a schema. Okay, and security is also used, right? On the finance, you can give the access to the finance guys. So there are a lot more concept comes from that. So it's a very good practice to organize your table on a schema. Okay. So we can create DB2. Yeah, every database will create a schema. So that's the pretty standard because all the database that are relational database management system, RDBMS, and RDBMS are DB2, Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. They all are the RDBMS system. So they follow the same principle, right? All right, so we were a little bit deviated, but that's fine, right? You need to understand, right? Any question comes in mind, you can go on that, right? So, all right. So this is something like if you have this like and you can run it, right? Then entire query you can run, right? Because this is the only query I have on this window, right? But many times you do like the multi queries on the same window because you don't want to create n number of the windows, right? So on that case, if there are multiple line of your window, then you can prefer to select the line that you want to run and just simply select the line and run. It will run. Here is already created like the my database is selected student DB, so I do not need to use this. So I'll remove this part. So now I can use any other query. Okay. So that's the part on that. So the second thing that we're talking about, we got the select a star means whatever the columns are there that will come, right? And one more thing is very good practice when you are querying the production database, use the no log hints, right? No log hints is very important because when you are querying on the production data, usually you don't, right? Because you work on the lower environment data first and then you go on the production. So, but if you are querying on the production data, use the no log so that unintentionally you're not blocking this table, right? So, later, other time we'll discuss like the how SQL Server works, do the read and writes. So the key things we keep in mind like the everything should be fast, read and write. It should not create any block because if the query execution time is higher, it means the chance that your table can be locked. And if your table is locked, then nobody can write the data. Means nobody can enter a new student information in this table. So that's for advanced level we can go if we need, right? So now star means all the columns, right? All the columns and all the rows also. So suppose this student table have 10,000 rows, all the row will come. If has a 1 million row, 1 million student list will come over here, right? And uh, after going on Azure, right, every in and out transactions or output will consider and require some financial obligation attached with that, and even it's take time, right? Because if you are reading 4 record and you're reading 1 million record, your query execution time would be higher, more RAM, more CPU will be needed, right? So other good practice you guys can follow. Let's start with like the uh, top and then give the number. How many top record you want to see? So I want to see 10 record. I want to see top 100 record. If there are millions of record and you want to see the top thousands, you can use the top thousand, right? This top keyword is reserved keyword for SQL Server. In other database, little bit deviation you can see, right? And that will be like, if I'm not wrong, the same thing in a DB2 or MySQL is start with the limit 10 or something at the end, or DB2 start with the fetch first 100 rows only, right? So if you are working with the DB2, top one is not going to work. On that case, your query would be select star from dbo.Student, fetch first 100 rows only, and then you can get the 100 rows, right? So some these things change price. So that's I'm highlighting like the top is only for SQL Server, but rest of the like this standard is common. You can run against any database. So like I wanted to use the top two rows, right? And again a star. So in this case, all the columns will come, but number of rows will be only two. So when you are doing the data analysis, the very first time you are querying, and you don't know how many columns are there, how many rows are there. So the very first query, if you're using SQL Server, should be look like this. So it will give you that the all the columns, what are the values under that column, so you can visually more understand what information is stored into this table, right? It's a very good things like to explore about the table, right? And that's what you see like if you can do any query. If you want to see any data, just you can right click and see here, select top 1,000 rows already is given. And once you run that, SQL is generated for you. You do not need to write the SQL. And what it does is use the select top keyword and 1,000 records, and it gives the name of every single column. It does not use a star, right? You give the name of the every single columns, and then at the end you see the name of the table with the data. Only 1,000 rows. Yeah. See here at the bottom, you can see my mouse pointer. It's going to be giving you the 1,000 rows only, although it has a lot more data. So how many records are in this table? How do we know? It's very simple. No, that's the 1,000 because we use. That's where we use the aggregate function called the count, and you can put a star. A star means all column, but the best practice is just use the one, right? It will count the one. Whatever the number of rows will become here, it will be added. So if you see that total number of record in this table is a 70,510. Okay. So if I'll use unnecessary, I need to see the some data sample. But if I'm running this query, unnecessary, I'm using lot RAM and CPU to return 70,000 record. Although my interest is just to see the data sample for 10 record or 100 record. Okay. So so far so good. Let's go on the where we started with this. So that's the way you compose your query, right? Those are the some additional you do not need to focus over the time you learn. The key things that you need to remember, select with the top number of rows you wanted to show, and then a star and the from, and then the name of the table. That's a very, very basic SQL that you need to run against any database, right? Now, as you see, like the column name, you can specify by comma. So it's like the first name, middle name, last name. So I use here. And the other thing is like little bit structure is good, right? Because if you go on writing, write, it will be a little problematic. So if every major command, you do the line break. So the good way is like the select top two and then give the here the first name. And IntelliSense also supported. So you see like the as soon as I type the first name column comes, and you once you press the space button, it will come forward, right? And then I put the middle. So see the middle name is there. So you do not need to type, just select that and press the space. Then the column will be selected or tab or anything. Yeah, tab also. Yeah. And then last name, right? If this is my last column, I'll not put the comma again, right? Now it will be a stop here. Run the query. You see the data. Okay. Now let's say where condition, right? I got all things, but now I want to see the all the student whose last name is Singh, right? So that's where is come the where command, right? To do the filter. So now I need to do the where because I want to filter the data. If you do not need to filter the data, only the select and from will be used, right? But usually you need to filter the data. You don't want everything, right? So any filtration you need to do, whether on the age, whether on the name, city, state, country, any filtration you need to start with the where command. And as you see, like the after the where command, you need to join is not using, right? I mean, at this point, all our query and all the columns is coming from the single table, right? So far, we are only using single table, so that's why join is not needed. But if you are using more than one table, that we'll discuss tomorrow, then you need to use the join. So let's park join for tomorrow, where how we can use a more than one table. Let's just stick to the one table only, right? Where and what filter we want? Last name equal to string, right? So we'll use the column name always, and then last name equal, and Sing is a varchar, right? Is character, so it will always go in a single character, right? And one more thing you can do that this equal to sign means exactly equal, right? So exactly it means it need to be identical, right? Usually it's some mistake we do over here. So now if you run this, you find one record. But if by mistake, if this value is converted to the small thing, so every single character is different in computer, right? For us, this thing and that thing or that thing is no difference. If you're writing in this way, or even you are writing, this is used for the comment. If we are writing this all capital, or even if we're writing this, um, for us, for human, all these three is the same, but computer, all these three are three different things, right? So whenever you are comparing, it's very, very important, like you know that the what exact absolute value is there, because if you run this query, everything is fine, but your it's running fine. That's fine. It's not case sensitive, so it's letting you do that. But sometimes if it is case sensitive configuration they do, then it will not let you do that too. So, but here is letting you do that. Other thing that what we do if the case sensitive problem is happening, you don't know like the which case it is used. So there is a function called the upper, right? So what it will do, it will convert all your column value to upper, and then you can comfortably you can write the upper value, right? So this is not set up as a case history, that's why it's working. But as you see, the upper is giving you everything in upper character. And to verify how it look like, you can simply put this again the column as a value and after the comma. And once you run this, you'll see that the your last name has been converted to upper character. So upper here is the function that we have used. It's a pre-built function provided by SQL Server for the fast work, right? So you do not need to. And opposite of the upper is that lower also. So if you use the lower, then it will convert everything in a lower character, right? So now you see like everything has been converted into lower character. So that's comparison you'll do. And what are the other compare you can do? Equal to you can compare. This is called as a not equal to, right? Less than greater than together is a not equal to, or you can write the not equal to like, sorry. I think this is also not equal to, or it's the other way around. Yeah. So this is also not equal to. So if you are running this query, then your the very first name will be excluded from this list. Oh, any guess like why I'm getting only two? Because it's selected top two, that's why. No, but it's still top two and not equal to saying, so there should be more record. Anyways, so this will give you the not equal to sign, right? So generally the arithmetical we use for the arithmetical one, less than, greater than, we can use that. So you can use anywhere, it will not throw an error. Just need to put a star. Which one? Like no, no, that doesn't matter. Stars is not the so stopper over here. That's the some other reason, right? So there are arithmetical operator that you can use it, right? So better we can do the arithmetical for the anywhere we have numbers, right? So like you see order lines, right? So order line we have a quantity, right? So we want to see like this is another table from the adventure works, right? And let's put the star over here, right? So now we are going to practice about the other combination that we can use with the where, right? And there are pretty much a lot more keyword is provided by database that you can use based on your situation. Like now if I'm saying like, okay, give me that all the order where quantity is between 50 to 100, right? So then your query would be where quantity. It's very easy. That's why it's like it's the English type for general language quantity between, there is a between keyword, right? And I want 50 to 100. No, not 2 and 100. I think, right? Now, if you run this, you'll see that all these products are only between 15 and 100. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So again, between and is a keyword where you can use the two numbers to compare the value, filter the value, and give you the return, whatever return you wanted to capture it, right? So this is another any column name for arithmetical, you can use it. The other you can try out is like as I said, like now it's arithmetical, so you can use the less than, greater than, and all that. So we can stick to the quantity column, right? And we can see how your result will impact it. Less than 50, right? So now what will happen? All the orders that's quantity is less than 50 will become here, right? So you see like all the order quantity is less than 50, right? Same, you can just switch it to the greater than 50, right? And if you want to include the 50, then you need to use the greater than and equal to. What will be happening in this case? 50 will be not part of your result, right? Whatever you see here, the 50 is not part of your result, right? But if you put the greater than and equal to sign, means you want to include 50 also in your result, right? So now it will be 50 is also included in your result. So the way we have a greater than equal to, similarly we have a less than equal to, right? So depending on your use case, what you want, right? You want to show the, okay, give me the list of the student whose age group is 18 to 35. So you want to include 18 and you want to include 35 also in your condition. So that way you can use that. So best if you have two value, you can use the between 18 to 35. Then all the student will come as 18 to 25 or 35 age group. Okay. Similarly, I mean, you can use the not equal to, so only the 50 will be excluded. Okay. So less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to, equal to. That's why you compare. If you put the equal to, then only the quantity will be included with equal to. Okay. There is one more that you can use for the number and that you can use for the column values also. That is called the in clause. So what will be happen in case of the in clause? Once you put the in, it will store it will expect values one or more than one, right? So you can use one value also. Like it's exactly this is the same value. I want quantity in 50. If you run that, only the record will come that quantity is 50. But I want quantity 50 and 100. So now it will give you only the records where quantity is 50 and 100. Right? So you see like 50 and 100, right? So you can keep increasing this list. I want a quantity 50 and 170, right? So whatever the your use case, you can keep extending that, right? So now your data will be only 50, 170. Where it is very important, right? When you see like I want a student from city belongs to Columbia, New York, and New Jersey. So in that case, you'll put those city name into your within the in condition. Okay, so that's where we use the in. If you want to have a list that you want to filter out, then you'll use the in command. Okay, and there is a opposite of the in command. If you want to exclude, there could be scenario like, okay, exclude whoever is above 80, right? So similarly, you can use like opposite to the in is not in, right? So we are checking with quantity, but you can check with the city also in the same way. So like you can see, like I'm just mimicking that, and that query is not going to run, but now your condition will be like a city not in Colombia. And as this is your string value, so I put in a single quote. And once you run this, then all the records will be filtered out. Yeah, Colombia will not come in your list. Okay, so there is a in and there is opposite of in is not in. And I believe this works for every, you can revert for any command, like you can use that not between 15 and 100. I think that should also work. Yeah, not between 15 and 100, right? So the not with condition, you can add it in with in and not and all that, right? Yeah. One more where command filter that is very powerful that we use very commonly is a like operator. Like operator is very, very powerful. So what happens in the like operator is look for the pattern, right, that you wanted to know. Like I don't know the exact name, right, or exact description. But as you see here, these are the description of the product. And I think I want a product that start with developer, right? So that's where we use the like operator, right? So when you use the like, again, it's a code, DEVE, just I need DEV, right? And then putting the percent sign after that means any description that start with the DEVE will come after that. Number of character is infinite, and what is that character is also infinite, right? So what will happen, just run that, and sorry, I need to put the column name that is called the description. Now you can run it. So you see, like all that started with the developer, right? So that's where the like operator is. Percentage sign means anything start with that. If I'll remove this and I'll start with D, what will be the result? Start with the D. Anyone?
Anything which start with a D, everything will come there. Not only the
Right.
developer, everything.
Yeah. So anything that first letter is D and after second and other letter like the DVA joke mug. That's really interesting. So dinosaur battery, right? Because that start with the D will come, right? And similar way, like if you put the percent before, then in this description, anywhere the D is there, that will be part of this, right? Because just you're looking for the D word, right? So that percentage sign goes both direction, right? If I'm putting like this, then it means like I wanted to see any description that end with E, right? The ending must be E. The last letter of that should be E. No? Oh, sorry, other way around. I did the person opposite direction, right? So now the last letter should be E and then percentage. There are some other variation also. So based on your use case, you can see like all this description, last letter is E, right? So you can play around. I mean, depending on your use case, you can filter your data out, right? So far we learned the select from and where and the what are the condition you can build around that with the where condition. Now let's move to the next one in our list is group by, right? So when do you use the group by? That's very interesting. And order by, say, if the group by is not there, then you can use the order by, right? And order by can work for any column, right? So if you see like here, right, and all is coming. I want to start with the in, but I want order by, and any column that you want to order. I want to order description, right? And then you need to mention that whether it's an ascending order or descending order. So for ascending, you'll write ASC. or descending, you write DSC, right? So once you put that and run that, what will be happened? Your U character is coming first and the other character is coming first, right? One more thing I would like to highlight, because as we are playing around the description and all the other columns is coming, you see like the description is repeating because there are multiple order for the same description. So what we can do that, there is another keyword that we use, distinct. Distinct means unique, and what we want, unique description. We don't want to repeat it description, right? So distinct description from your order line table, where description like ending with E and order by description descending. So now this will be your, it will give you the all unique description and it will order in the descending order, right? J to E, right? If we'll turn this ASC, so it will order the A to G, right? Now you see that the order is changed and it's coming in start. I mean, R and U, these are the only two there. Okay, so far so good. So you can use the order and you can blend it, right? You can use multiple table for the this one. So now it's better we can use one more table for our practice. And let me go. There is a view, right? Let's use the customer view, right? So once you see that these are the list of the customers and what are the information we have, a customer name, categories, and all these things, right? Buying group name is also there, right? So the first thing that we look for that and where we need an aggregate function and the group by will start is suppose that you want to see customer category and number of customer belongs to that category, right? So how we write that query? We want to use a customer category, and because wherever is come like the count, group, min, max, means you need to use the aggregate function. And whenever you use the aggregate function, then you need to use the group by, right? So I'm using the count one, right? Because I want to want the customer count. And this is the customer view and table, right? And there is nowhere, right? So nowhere, then after that will come the group by, and only the group by is coming because if you see this, if I move this and just count the this, if I run this query, what will be the output? What is this 663? It's a count. Count of what? What is this 663? Count of what?
Records.
A record, yeah, count of records, and that's it. The 663 is the customers. This is customer table, right? If I'll use the same thing from supplier table, right? Like select count one from what is that website? Again, schema. And you see that schema is like a hierarchy, website dot supplier. So if I'm using this suppliers count, so this count is the number of supplier we have. Total supplier we have 13, and this count I can just Control C copy, Control V paste, and I can put it the customer. So this is my supply of. So see, the first one is my supplier count, second is my customer count, right? So that's what we see there with the count, right? So 663 is the total customer in this database, and 13 is the total supplier in this database. One more thing, like the during the data profiling, and the aggregate function is very helpful for the data profiling, right? Because that's what will come like, okay, what is the total customer? What is the total mass order, minimum order, and all those things, right? That's where you use the aggregate function. But here group by is not needed. The reason being because group by is only needed if in your select statement, it's very important to understand that. If in your select statement you are using any aggregate function, right? And there is another column that is non-aggregate function, just a column name, then you need to use the group by. So what it means, like if I'm using the count one, or I don't know, I use the main customer ID. Ah, so my ID is there, right? Customers. No, I think main customer ID. Main is also main function. What is main function for that?
Minimum and max
Yeah.
is for the
So
maximum
in this
value.
entire list, what is the minimum value? And maximum is the what is the maximum value in this entire field
Cus
value? Yeah, customer ID. Within the customer ID.
0 or 1?
No, like what whatever the column that you're using on that column, what is the minimum value, right? So I've used the customer ID over here, and let's run and see what would be. Customer ID is the auto increment number, so I'm expecting like the first column number would be one, and the max would be whatever that. So 1061 is the max customer ID, and minimum is the one, right? And if you want to validate what it means, you can simply select the star from website.customer, right? Website.customer, right? If you run this, we have used the min and max of the customer ID, right? And if you run that, this is your customer ID, and it's a random, right? So how you can see that? Use the order by what? Customer ID. So it will do the order, and then you can see like what's coming on the first. So see, the first is the one, right? So that's the minimum value. That's what we got over here, min value, right? Let me run these two together so you guys can see it, right? Now I'm going to select these two query and run together. So see, the minimum value is one. That's the customer ID is the one minimum. Maximum is coming as 1061. So how you can see the maximum? Just change the order, DSC, right? Once you select the descending order, and now you run it. So this time you'll see the whatever the max value is, the 1061 is the maximum number. Okay. So whatever value, whatever the column that you're putting, if you're putting the quantity, if you're putting the name, anything like, I mean, it's more suitable for the integer value, not for the character value, but it's not going to harm you, right? So what is happening in this case? All these columns that we have in our select statement is a aggregate function, right? We can use the average also. Let's use the average, although it doesn't make sense of the average function, but just for the sake of query, we can use the average of that. So it will do the average, and once you run that, this will be the sum. Your average value is a 549. Okay. So if in your select statement all columns are aggregate function, then you do not need to use the group by. But as soon as what we wanted to see, you saw that last time, we want to see the category, right? And how many customer are under each category so that we can know that which one is the most popular category. Okay, are you getting my point? So right, that's why we'll use group by. Yeah, so now in this list, I need to use the column called category, right? Customer category name. Where is the customer category name? Copy with header, put it over here. I mean, see, believe me, copy paste is your lifesaver. So the more you do the copy paste, the better you will be. No need to remember, no typo mistakes, just copy and paste, right? So you can do like that, the way I did, right? Or second thing, you can do it like over here. If you expand that and expand the columns, it will give you the name of the column. Simply you can drag that column name and it will come over here. Okay, so it's good to know, right? Many times IntelliSense does not support, or I don't know, some reason is does not pop up, right? So on that case, you can simply go over here and whatever column you want, you can drag it, right? So now if you try to run this, it will throw an error. And it will, I mean, if you see that error are somehow give you the hints, but not exactly, it will tell you select the select list because it's not contain either an aggregate function or the group by clause. So it's saying like you can solve this problem in a two-way. Either use the all column as aggregate function or use the group by, right? So now it's better we want to use the group by. Okay, so that's where it's come like the group by. And which column is the remaining that we will put in a group by? Is it customer ID or category name? Which one will go in a group by? Which column should I put in a group by? Any guess?
ID, customer ID.
Customer ID?
Yes.
Customer
No,
means in
no.
group by
Customer
we are
category name.
category
Yeah,
name and customer ID.
yeah. We'll use customer category name only because see, this is the column that is not using any aggregate function, right? Here is the aggregate function, here is the aggregate function, here is the aggregate function. So the non-aggregate functions column will go in a group by, and that's what we want, right? So the column will go in a group by is that the column that is not using aggregate function. Remember that, okay? So now if you run that, you'll see like, okay, computer store has the 51 count. And other thing, other problem you see like all these column have the numbers, but there is no column heading, right? They all are coming no column, no column. So it's very hard to understand which one is what, okay? So that's where it's come like the column alias, right? So what will do like as record count or customer count, customer count, right? So now this column that's coming as a no column will come as a customer count. So I'll repeat the same thing for other. I'll put it here as customer minimum minimum customer ID, right? So once you put the alias, although it doesn't make any sense for the minimum customer ID, our main focus is the customer count by category, right? So, but that's why you use the column alias, right? So what will be happen? It doesn't matter what is the name of the column, right? Once you put the alias, then it will give you the name of that column in your result set. Behind the scene is not changing. Take an example of this. In a database, the name of the column is customer category name, right? And it's coming like this. But on in report, I want to see so as a category, as category. That's it. Nothing else, right? So that's where you use the as category. So what it will do while showing the result, behind the scene still is the customer category name. But when you run this query, the customer category name will change to the category. Got it? So it's very popular to use the as based on your need, right? You can rename in your result set. So this is my result set, right? And just by scanning, we can see like the novelty shop is the most popular because there are 459 customer in this. And the least popular, which one is the least popular? Which category is the least popular?
Corporate.
Yeah, that's at the 47, right? The lowest number of the customer is in a corporate, and the highest number is in novelty shop, right? So see, that's, I mean, this is a very basic we did, right? By using the, so as an analyst, a lot of time you'll do this kind of the analysis, right? And the similar thing you can do, like once you import the data in Power BI will do for you how many unique record are there, what is the max record, what is the main record, what is the field count. We'll see once we'll go in detail in a Power BI, right? But that's the group by is happening here. And then the last is that again, on top of that, you can use the order by if you want, right? So order by whatever the order you want to use, right? I want to use based on the customer count, right? But think here it's a little bit tricky. Why is tricky? If you use the customer count, your system computer will not understand customer count, right? Order by is doing, man, essay it's working. Yeah, that's fine. So order by is doing customer count based on the aggregate function, and I did the ascending. So now it's working in the ascending, and a lot more has changed in SQL Server. It seems like, and now in descending, so you can order on that way too, right? So now you have, and these columns doesn't make any sense. So what I'll do, I'll just these things I can comment it out, right? So many times when you're building a logic, you can park that thing for the future reference. So you can simply comment out instead of removing that logic completely from your query, you can just comment it out and let it be there. Or if you want to put like, okay, not in use, but might be, I'll use later. So whatever that you can put the comment so that you know like, oh, why you have removed that. And it's good to have like whatever the comment you have on this case. So this is your data. If somebody will ask like, okay, give me that, you can copy with header and you can send it in an email or you can send it in anything, right? All right. So order by you can use these things, giving the name of the column, or other thing you can use the sequence of the column. You can give it also in order by. I usually prefer the sequence of the column also because the name keeps changing and things get added on that. So the very first order is the category. Second is the your customer count. So here you can put the one represent to the category and two represent to the your customer count. So this is the order of the column that is in a select statement, right? And result will be the same, right? So this time I wanted to one and ASC. And if you run this, it will give you the first column in ascending order. And again, if you do the DSC, it will be in a descending order. All right, so and again, like if you want to use the where, oh sorry, yeah, is somebody, Divya, go ahead.
Yes. My question is in the count in the bracket you gave one, so basically it's in the it gave all the count. So if accidentally if I give two or three, what will happen?
I think let's try that. Let's better try that, right? Whatever in your mind, just let's try that and see what will be happen. Right? So it's not doing anything, right? So these 2, 3, 4 is nothing, just like whenever number of record will be represented, it will come, right? So usually people prefer to a star, but once you see the star means all the columns, right? So that's why a star will also give you the same. Two will also give you the same because it's not two means not is adding for every two record or one record. It's just the something need to go here. I cannot leave it blank, I believe, because if you leave it blank, it will throw an error, right? So something need to go there. So usually you put one or put a star. Okay.
Thank you.
So that comes over here. And one more question I'm going to ask. Like you see, like the select is there, aggregate function is there, from, group by, and order by. Now, if I need to write the where condition where customer count less than 100. So where should I do that? Where? Here. First of all, where, where will come, right? So that's where always goes after the from, right? So that's fixed, right? You can, if you need to write where, it will be always after from. Okay. But the thing is that where, if I use the customer count like this value, and if I put the less than 100, right, it will not work. It will throw an error because execution order is totally different, right? Even if I'll use the count one, it will throw error because very first SQL server start with the where, right? From where and all that. Then they sparse in a different order, right? So it's not working. Okay. So the rule over here, one more concept over here is that if you need to filter based on the aggregate function, then you cannot use where. Then the keyword comes having. And in interview, they ask like the what is difference between where and having, right? So that is the difference. Having, and this is my aggregate function, and I want to filter data based on the aggregate function less than 100. Now this will work. Got it? So again, I'm going to ask, what is the difference between where and having? Who is going to explain to me? You got the concept of the having or not? Or should I repeat again?
If we are using the aggregate function, then where won't work. So at that time, we have to use having.
Right. If you need to filter the data based on the aggregate function value, then having will be used. And if you need to filter the data based on the column value, like the customer name, city, country, state, Jeep, age, quantity, order number, then the where. Then where condition will be used. So that's the difference between having and where. All right. So I think we have concluded pretty much all the basic SQL syntax. So the key takeaway is like the syntax you remember, like whatever will come, select, and then the if you have a column name, you can put the column name. From always goes the table name, and in between whatever you want to add it. Like I can use where, although it doesn't make any sense, but let's use the category name. So we just for the completion of that, like C% single quote. Character always goes with the single quote. If it will be number, then you don't need to put the single quote. So now you are running there. So this is the full select keyword. Select from, where, group by, having, order by. Okay. So this order is not going to change. In between, you can change the number of the column. In between, you can change the number of the table. But whenever this keyword will come and you need to use this keyword, this will be order. You remember this order. Okay. All right. So that's the full query. Yeah. That's all for today. And you guys can just keep doing the practice around those keywords. And that's why it's called the fourth generation English like language, because uh, it's not C, C++ and all that. It's very straightforward. You can just like select this thing from this, where, group by, having, order by this. All right. So any question, doubt, or if not, then we'll conclude today. And tomorrow we'll see the join.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And anybody kind of got some time to